Mayorkas treats Hispanics like slaves, saying they're going to pick our fruit again. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel as we expose the Democrats. Oh, this is going to be a good one, guys. We got some killer quotes. Here's all criminal, soon to go to jail, Alejandro Mayorkas. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel.
If food is not reaching our table because those who pick the crops have been removed, and by the way, because also others are not there to fill those jobs, maybe that will move the needle too.
This is the exact argument the Democrats made. Oh, in the mid-1800s. I'm trying to think of what happened in the mid-1800s. They go, you can't free the slaves. They're not going to pick our crops. Do you know how much money that's going to cost the farmers? It's going to be outrageous. And maybe when the people see how much money it costs in the North for their vegetables, maybe they'll rethink the whole freedom thingy stuff. They're basically saying that you can buy votes with expensive fruit. That'll make everyone cave on just letting people break the law, let them come in illegally. I don't want to pay $7 for an avocado. We'll sacrifice Lake and Riley. You have to sacrifice a few virgins to perform the evil task. Alejandro Mayorkas, you are going to go to jail.
If Los Angeles seeks to rebuild from the devastating, ravaging fires, and there are individuals who are not there to hammer new roofs.
This is one of the most, look at his smile too. He thinks this is delicious. There'll be no one to hammer roofs. What a lizard. I expect a forked tongue to flip out of his mouth right now for him to unhinge his jaw and swallow a rat whole right before shedding his entire skin before us. He is so reptilian. What if no one's there to hammer those? LA is one of the most populated cities in America, and you can't find someone to hammer shingles and build a roof? What did we ever do before illegals came in? How did Americans ever have a roof in 1900? We never had a single fruit picked or roof nailed by someone who was a legal citizen. You reptile, man, look at these people look at how creepy he is. Creepy, translucent skin, creepy albino. They look like every villain in like the Planet of the Apes movies, those guys that they took their masks off and they were all like underground, spent too much time indoors. They have like their blue veins protruding through their head, or like in Star Trek villains. You know, these are like the pasty white albino elite class. We will decide everything for you.
And those jobs, and they may not be replaced, that would be instructive as well.
Yeah, well, you know what else would be instructive? If you got thrown in jail. That was an easy comment and a delicious one to make. I truly hope he gets in jail. Here he is with Kathy Hochul, she's the female version. Look at her. She's ready to swallow a large rat whole herself.
What, if anything, as you look at your tenure in this issue, and there's just a focus on it for the department's much bigger than this issue, and we're going to spend 15 minutes on those, is what, if anything, would you want to have done differently or had the Biden administration do differently as regards not just enforcement, but even migration flows?
Juliet, I am not someone who, I believe firmly that the front windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror for a reason. I tend to look forward and push forward. I am very proud of what we did do. I would have liked...
He's proud of what he did do. Lake and Riley, 11 million illegals in here. What the Republicans did was they brought in Rep. Hagman, and the Constitution being ignored by Democrats and activist judges. Article 2 indeed states that the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States, and no court may take over that rule. She's going to articulate. We've been talking about some of this because there's an argument right now over if Trump has the ability to overturn or mow over state authority.
Thank you. Are Article 2 of the Constitution states that the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. In other words, it is the President that defines the executive branch. When you read this language, it says that no court may take over that role. No court may define or limit the scope of the duties of an official of the executive office of the President, the people who work in the executive office. I think that what your amendment does is a violation of separation of powers, and it's a violation of Article 2 of the Constitution.
The gentlelady yield?
Yes, I will.
It's always good when the constitutionalist specialist comes in. It helps us all. So what you're saying is that the bill codifies Article 2 for purposes of the court being reminded and instructed of their limitations, and the amendment would undo that.
That's exactly right, because then it would imply that a federal court could in fact define or limit the scope of the duties of those individuals who work within the executive office of the President, and that is not a federal court's role. That is for, under Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, that power is vested in a President of the United States of America.
Complex argument, but very well made and really clarifying. I'll probably have to replay that again to fully understand it, but it's basically saying that when these judges are putting out these orders stopping Trump from using Doge, using Elon Musk, and stopping U.S. aid, they're having a court usurp their authority against the executive branch when it's implied that he should be able to do what he wants under his jurisdiction, the president. Separation of powers.
Could the gentlelady further yield for another question?
Yes.
Your understanding is, with the current president, or the last one, or the next one, if we don't do something like this, realistically, the chief executive, president, would continue to have to answer a myriad of claims in up to not just 50 states, but multiple places in 50 states.
That's important, what ISA's bringing up here, Daryl Issa. Look, if you allow states to tie up the president, to question every order he does in every jurisdiction, in every state, think of every county. This is kind of what you had with Alvin Bragg going after Trump at the state level. If you allow Democrats to do that, so Hagman is writing this piece before ISA here, that's to defend the president and push back on the states to stop them from overstepping their power. If they don't, ISA is saying right here, if they don't stop that, you're going to unleash every Democrat judge, state, radical to launch a similar stop on the president's powers. And then he'll be tied up in court for 4 years. That was the Democrat plan. Super important here. And I love that they're articulating this in public.
And if that tactic was used, even more so than it may have been used in the past, that you would have...
That's exactly what was used over the last 4 years with tying Trump up during his campaign, sticking him in a courtroom under Letitia James, E. Jean Carroll, Fani Willis. Remember, that was the strategy. Even if they couldn't get a guilty conviction, Jack Smith knew they could get him off the campaign trail. What they didn't realize is that Trump being in court was actually better than any campaign money he could have spent. It ended up flipping the election for him. It ended up being free marketing for Trump once again. So it backfired on the Democrats. However, it still isn't legal. It still isn't good. And they're still going to try to do it again for the next 4 years. They have no other power but to tie him up in court.
A president having to use non-official funds to answer a series of cases alleged not to be that way. Is that true?
That's the way that I read this, and I think that it's very clear, especially starting in 2017 when President Trump was sworn in the first time, that the courts have been used for nefarious purposes on a variety of issues. In fact, yesterday we had a hearing in our constitutional subcommittee about lawfare and how lawfare had been weaponized against President Trump, both while he was president as well as after his presidency. So again, I guess that I'm very skeptical of the idea that people are not willing to use lawfare to go after a current or former president. We've seen it over the last 9 years in many different instances. But the president is the one who gets to define the limit and scope of the duties of the personnel within his office. That is very clear from Article 2 of the Constitution.
Oh, yeah. Good luck fighting that, Democrats. That's the Constitution that she's quoting. And it's great that she's reminding them of it so they don't just get run over. This is where Biden and the Obama Democrats actually created a corrupt system for them to hide. This is a lot of text, and this is going to be probably bore the heck out of those of you that just want to watch videos. How's that for a great intro? This will probably bore you. It won't. It's very important, actually. This is Elizabeth McDonald. This is disturbing. Biden and Obama Democrats created a new beast, the pop-up nonprofit shell. They suddenly launch to take in your taxpayer money, supposedly for things like climate change and illegal immigration, major front for taxpayer abuse with accusations of grift growing by the hour. I never saw it like this in decades covering the IRS and taxes. This is a brand new story, guys. This is coming. I'm ahead of this story. You watch. This one is going to be significant. Check out the tax returns for one of these pop-up NGO, non-government organization shells, the Climate United Fund. If you're still recycling, guys, you're in a cult. The Climate United Fund, which got the biggest nonprofit grant in history, nonprofit grant in history out of Biden's massive climate slush funds. Kamala Harris and Biden's EPA, Environmental Protection Act chief, Michael Regan, who got replaced by Trump's, gave $7 billion total to this suddenly created Climate United Fund in April of 2024 after it launched just 5 months earlier in November of 2022 when its tax return showed it started with a tiny $500,000 in revenues. So they bumped it up from $500,000 to $7 billion to hide money into a green environmental NGO, non-government organization. This is where all your money's going, guys. This is why Democrat messaging, though their messaging is polling at about 20% right now, they're the most unpopular party practically in American history. You can probably get more support for the KKK right now, which was also started by Democrats, than you can with the modern Democrat Party. They're so unpopular that they have to just steal your money and hide it in these government organizations and then say, we're trying to save the planet from drowning in environmentalists. You just want to drown the planet and melt the ice caps and have all the polar bears die. But it spent a massive $400,000 of that $500,000 in just 2 months in 2023, a quarter of that on legal fees, and a majority, $300,000 mysteriously blown on no one knows because its tax returns don't say. It has no stipulated plans for how it will spend your $7 billion in tax dollars, just ephemeral solar projects like in Idaho, Arkansas, and Oregon that amount to only about $50 million total, a fraction of the $7 billion. It also gave money out of that $7 billion to power forward communities linked to Stacey Abrams, criminal in Georgia. It has little to no details on how much of its officers get paid that you typically see in NGO 990s. In fact, virtually no details. Red flags that it's a shell. It supposedly is a bipartisanship between Dem insiders at investment firm Calvert Impact Capital, Community Preservation Group, and a group called Self-Help. Irony noted. Beth Baffert is its CEO, a former special assistant in Obama's OMB, and a regional field officer for the Obama campaign. Look, this is all complete. Here's another one, Willoughby, of the Congressional Black Caucus. They're spreading this cheddar around. And here's the actual tax documents they're investigating. I think it's absolutely brilliant and important that they continue to fight for the Trump agenda, push back on the Democrats, and realize this is a strategy of theirs. Remember, they don't have media. Democrats don't have media on their side anymore. It's not powerful enough. So we saw maybe in 2020, they used one strategy to try and overturn Trump at the electoral ballot box. Didn't work. Or it might have worked, but I mean, it backfired on them in that he ended up winning in 2024. So all of 2022, they had a different strategy using lawfare to tie him up. Now that one at least succeeded in getting him in court. It did not succeed in making him actually lose. It backfired. But they're going to try now. They have to stop his agenda. They have to tie him up in court for the next 4 years, have individual states demand that U.S. aid get paid. You just saw that one, a half loss for Trump at the Supreme Court, where they made them pay the $2 billion to U.S. aid that they already spent, where the work was already done. And we'll see how that works out, I believe, by next week with the Supreme Court, by the 14th of this month. Because if that works, it will expand to these are all Democrat judges seeing, can they stop Trump? And so they're pushing back here saying, no, you stay in your separation of powers. No, a judge does not allow to redefine the executive branch's job when it's enumerated in the Constitution in that Article 2 or Section 2 of the separation of powers, that he's allowed to define his branch however he wants. And I agree with that. I'm Doug in exile.